Howdy, it's Charlie again, and today we're going to talk about from a beginning to a beginner. I'll put you up on your little pedestal. And I'd like to say that yesterday's tape was a little bit grainy, unless I redo it. If I don't, you'll know what I mean, and if I do, then you won't have known how bad it was. A real grainy picture. Anyway, as I said, you know, this stuff is a little bit complicated. It gets a little hard to understand at times, but I want you to bear with me on all these things, and we'll come to a satisfactory resolution at the end of this. But in the meantime, from a beginning to a beginner. Now the Bible, I mean, from the very first sentence, takes a beginning as an axiom. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. And that there was a beginning has been the standard of thought for all reasonable theologians since these words were penned. There have been attempts to disprove this throughout the years. It's pretty much undeniable now because of, you know, Big Bang cosmology. But even without the Big Bang cosmology, theologians have always been right about this. There was a beginning, okay? What's called an infinite regress, in other words, no beginning, just no beginning at all in time, is impossible. Now, mentally we can come up with what's called an infinite regress. That means something that goes on eternally in one direction. We can come up with that mentally, and we can come up with that mathematically. But in actuality, we cannot have an infinite regress of time. There had to be a beginning. Now, I want you to understand this simply because it was common for a while for people to say that there was no beginning, the universe was eternal, and therefore they could deny that there was a God and all this kind of crazy stuff. And like I said, the Big Bang cosmology says that there was a beginning, but then we run into other problems that people come up with, saying that there was an infinitely small, infinitely compressed, infinitely dense, and infinitely time-dilated singularity, and that was the beginning. And after that bang, we came up with this big universe. And they kind of arrogantly in one swoop say, well, this is what always was, and then there was this bang. That doesn't take care of the problem of an infinite regress, though, and I'll talk about that in a second. But let me give you a couple examples of what I was talking about as far as the cosmos not being eternal. There's the old Greek argument that you could never actually touch somebody. You know, you've got a person here and a person here, and you're 10 feet away, and then 5 feet away, and then 2 feet away, and then 1 foot away, and then they're half a foot away, and a tenth of a foot away, and then you just keep dividing infinitely. And in your mind, you can't. You can infinitely divide this decreasing distance and never ever touch. And you can do that mathematically. But realistically, we touch. You know, when I kiss my wife, I know I'm kissing my wife. There's no doubt about it. We're not almost kissing. We are actually touching. So infinite regress in that sense is impossible. Another example of an infinite regress impossibility is a line of books. Now suppose you have an infinite line of black books, right? And in between those black books is inserted a red book. Okay? Now, take out all of the red books, put them in a pile. How many books do you have left in the line? You have an infinite number of black books left. You haven't decreased the number in that line by even one, and yet you have an infinite pile of red books left over. Okay? An infinite regress is simply not possible. And not only is it not possible with the line of books going back eternally, if we were to represent a book for a moment of time, but that infinite pile of red books that you stacked up is infinite. It's so big that it fills the entire universe, and there's no room for anything else. See that? So an infinite regress of time is simply not possible. Okay? This reasoning is valid, but foolish people over the years have tried to deny that this was the inevitable conclusion of time beginning. However, Einstein in the 20s came up with the general theory of relativity. And he proved beyond a shadow of a doubt that time, space, and matter all occurred at the exact same time. Okay, now that's important because you can't have time without space, and you can't have space without matter. You can't have matter without time and space, and you can't have space without time and matter. All three happened at the exact same time. They form a continuum that just goes on from there. But before that, there was any of the three. Okay. Imagine this will help clear that up for you. Imagine you have a rock with no time. Well, that means the rock isn't aging, but the rock is aging. So you see how the time is connected to the matter. It's causing a progression of time. Not only that, but the space within the rock, you've got atoms, and inside of an atom is mostly space. You can't have that unless you have the material substance of the rock. So all three of these work together in unison. You can't have one without the other. There really was a beginning, okay? Because there was a beginning, here's another one. Before I get into because there was a beginning, the second law of thermodynamics. Now, we've already established that there was a beginning. There had to have been. But the second law of thermodynamics just confirms that. It says that energy in a closed system is decreasing. Okay, eventually it will run down to nothing. The universe is a closed system. We know that. Whether you use Big Bang cosmology or anything else, we know that the universe is a closed system. And if time was infinite, going back, there was never a beginning, then all of the energy in the universe would have been run out an infinite time ago. There wouldn't be any energy right now. But we have plenty of energy right now. And because of that, there must have been a beginning. All right, we have plenty of energy to go, so we know that there was a beginning based on the second law of thermodynamics. And there's no exception to that rule. That is a law. It's without exception. So I hope you'll understand that we did have a beginning. The Bible is right on this one. Now we want to know who to attribute that beginning to. One argument is known as the Kalam, which states that if something had a beginning, it had a beginner, or a cause. As the universe did, in fact, have a beginning, it must have had a cause. As an infinite series of causes is impossible, once again, you've got an infinite cause. It's impossible. There must have been an uncaused cause. Now, it sounds crazy, maybe. You've never heard somebody repeat cause twice in one sentence. There is an uncaused cause, a necessary being, something that must have existed. People will ask, well, if God created the universe, where did God come from? Well, God could not exist. Now, I don't care what you call him at this point. Call him God or call him whatever. Something created everything. It caused everything to be. And not only did it cause everything to be, but it must have been uncaused in itself. Whatever you call that, I call it God. It's something that this creator made everything that we see, everything that is in existence in the universe, and he was not caused. He was an uncaused cause. Okay?